Alaman.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever or whenever you may be. This is the overnight, and I am Dean Foss. And tonight we've got gun websites. How you doing, gun websites?
Fair to Midland, thanks for hosting. Thanks for the invite.
And guns and barbecue. How you doing?
Fair to Farland. Thanks for hosting.
Oh, no problem. And G23 wants to know if you found your dog.
I did. The little son of a gun. When I got back home after jumping out that last time, I was out till about 12:30, and when I finally got back home at 12:30, he was sitting at the door and just waiting to get in. So I promptly let him in the house and sent him to bed. I was like, not dealing with you. Go to bed.
Well, that's good. Glad he made it home safe.
Yes. I was very happy about that. He's been very upset with me since then because he's just been going out on the leash since then. I was like, nope, you ruined it.
Oh, let me get the banner going because I remembered it early. I'm going to get the right one going. There we go, at the bottom of the screen. There's an email address and a link. You can send in comments, suggestions, or pictures within reason. untactlefoss@gmail.com or the link there. That'll get you somewhere. And in the description, there's a link for the overnight server, Gilded server. It's a place to hang out, chit chat. You can get a hold of me. Pretty much get a hold of anybody that comes on the chats. And there won't be a chat next Wednesday. I have to work, and I'm thinking that there might not be Wednesday chats for a while because of work. So I might shift them to the off nights on Saturdays. So we'll just go back and forth. One Saturday will be overnight. The other next Saturday will be
Mouse party.
mouse
Do
party.
we have to keep track of that, or is there going to be someone who keeps track of that for us, or how does that get scheduled?
Well, I will keep a mental note, and we'll go from there. So I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, but that seems to be the way it might go. I was on vacation for a month and went back to work Thursday, and my boss called me earlier in the day Thursday, and they had fired half the night crew. So we have it. The owners have to figure out what they want to do. So I'm not sure what's going to go on. So just a heads up, I know there won't be one next Wednesday, and there probably won't be one on Wednesdays for a little while. So we'll just shift them to Saturdays. And I think we might do a giveaway later. We'll do a 4th of July giveaway. Well,
Is that after the bracket?
yeah, the bracket. I sent out the bracket for powder coating, and I'm waiting to get it back. So,
Ooh, fancy. Technically, you're the first one live on Every Second Matters.
that's true. I don't know if
Some people.
But so tonight's topic was who's responsible for defending gun rights, and that kind of came out of DJ had sent me some ideas, and this is kind of a little bit open ended because I really hadn't put a whole lot of thought into it. But
this is really easy.
As a gun owner, is it our responsibility? Do we have I don't know if you want to call it a moral obligation or something like that to be a defender for gun rights?
No way, it's the NRA's.
Well, we'll get to.
I'm sorry, I'm being facetious.
But do you think that gun owners have an obligation to defend the gun rights?
I believe that we as citizens have an obligation to take an above average interest in anything that is a concern of interest that we have, if that made any sense. Whether it be gun rights, whether it be roadways and what our government's doing with those. For example, back when I was driving trucks still, our governor, Wolf, at the time wanted to turn Interstate 80 into a toll road in Pennsylvania. So the only two ways straight across Pennsylvania would have been I-80 and I-76, and both of those would have been toll roads then. Luckily, the court said that can't happen, but part of that was a lot of pushback by citizens saying, hey, what in the world? So, and I honestly, I make myself a little sick just thinking that I made that comparison, because I always hate when anything with firearms rights or firearms or anything like that get compared to anything dealing with vehicles and cars and whatnot. It's just something that popped into my head, about people being active in things that interest them and affect their everyday lives and whatnot. But yeah, so I think whether it be firearms or whatever else, you have a responsibility to be active in the entire process.
Let me say, I forgot to say a quick hello to everybody that's out there. So, and DJ was first, giving a big wee out there again. G23, X Adam 1, Guns and Barbecue, And the right strapping. He's another Washingtonian. Good evening to everybody. DJ, what do you think?
It's a little rough because I think that our actual duties and responsibilities as citizens are sort of limited, like four. You have to respect and obey laws. You have to appear in court. You have to serve in the military if called upon to do so. The fourth one's kind of eluding me right now. So I think that maybe a looser definition of duties and responsibilities would be good to top off to begin the discussion, because I think the gun owners often feel like we have a responsibility to follow laws even more strictly than the average person would. The things that we risk, our rights are, it's even more important than the average citizen. The average citizen doesn't necessarily have a concern about whether or not they can continue to carry a firearm or carry one even to begin with, let alone what it is that any municipality, state, or national law is regarding firearms. If you don't have a firearm, you don't care about them, you don't have a duty or a responsibility outside those initial four for any average citizen.
CNT Designs and Arms is out there. Hey, Coop. What do you think, G-Webs?
You have an opportunity, but I don't know if you have an obligation as an individual.
That's actually where I kind of stand. And being that we are a constitutional republic, you have the right to not get involved. So I think we should get involved. It's the best way to protect your rights is for everybody to be involved. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. And I don't know, it might seem kind of counterintuitive that I'm saying that, but you have the right as a U.S. citizen, you have the right to not participate. But there are dangers that come along with not participating. If you look at bad gun laws that have stood for a long time because they weren't, well, I was going to say they weren't challenged, but maybe not challenged in the right way. Or am I looking at that wrong? And part of it too is the makeup of the courts and whatnot. And I don't want to get too much into that because that's not what we're talking about. But
I think those went hand in hand with what you were saying there, Fuss. Weren't challenged or not challenged in the right way.
Yeah, I was kind of watching a little bit of some of the latest 2A news and stuff, and that's kind of partly what got me thinking about this. But it is, as me personally, as a gun owner, I think I have an obligation. But that's an obligation I put on myself. That's why I have a YouTube channel. That's why I do chats. That's why I make videos. And it behooves gun owners to be involved. Uncle Jim says everybody has the right to be a sheep. That is absolutely true. The only problem, and I'm not saying he's saying that you should be, but the problem with people being sheep is you get treated like sheep.
So may I interject again, Foss?
Yes, sir.
So piggybacking off of what DJ was saying, and this actually will tie in with yours and G-Web's views, because I said, yes, you have an obligation, but I don't believe we have a lawful obligation. And I'm not saying DJ is saying that we have a lawful obligation. And he's saying, aside from those four things, do we have an obligation or, do we have a moral obligation is what I was really alluding to myself. And I believe, yes, we have a moral obligation. Now, is there a difference between a lawful obligation or a moral obligation? Absolutely. If it was a lawful one, then you have to do it. You don't have a decision. But if it's moral, then you do have that choice of, do you do it or do you not? If you don't want to, then you don't. Does that mean you have bad morals or anything like that? Not necessarily. Maybe your morals stand somewhere else. But as a firearms owner, hopefully your morals, at least in my view, align with the fact that you want to, fight for your rights.
X Adam said, I support the 2A by buying guns, and companies that make millions have power and influence and won't go down without a fight. In the end, it's all about money. I disagree partly with that. There's not enough, I think. And I am making this statement without knowing the inner workings or backroom deals made by any company. But it would seem that not enough of the firearms industry is defending the rights, gun owners' rights. You'll get, and I'm trying to limit this because we're going to end up way down some different trails. You'll get companies that will hedge their bets by donating to everybody. So
All sides of the political debate.
Yeah. And that's when you see stories about, oh, this company supported this, it's supposedly a conservative company and they support, they gave money to Democrats, as a company. Lots of companies do that to protect themselves by supporting everybody. That way, if one side wins or the other side wins, they were tacitly showing support, maybe. But I think if the gun industry put more pressure on politicians, then it would have a larger influence. And from what I've seen, and like I said, I don't know, this is just my observation, it doesn't seem like that happens. Some do and some don't.
Well, so where do you want to start? But you've got companies. I don't know where you want to pick companies, but if you're talking like Colt and Sig and Smith and Wesson and that kind of thing, they've fought. They have the Smith and Wesson fights and the Glock fights, and I'm trying to remember if Colt's been in any fights. But in the past, they fought and they've had experience, right? Like most of them didn't come out of it with some kind of a big win. They came out of it with black eyes, both from whoever they fought with and their own customers. With the Hillary Hole and stuff like that, they're still not living that down. So, the companies have had some kind of history of what the fight was. And then there's 2008, you got Heller. 2010, you got McDonald. You got Ezel. Now you got New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, and, potentially more. So the fight has gotten different and more intense, and the companies are less influential in the industry, right? There's not just 5 companies anymore, or 7 or 10 or whatever it was. Like, there's way more companies than there ever was. And their sphere of influence, their whatever, their finger on the pulse, like realistically, they've never been paying attention to everything we do because we're just a bunch of people doing stuff, and it would be not their job. Their job is to make stuff, and then every once in a while listen to see if the stuff is made well. But the attacks on our rights to own the stuff is a fairly recent phenomenon to 1968 to now. I mean, technically 34 to now, but for most people, the lifetime of the a-holes that are just leaving the legislature. So Feinstein, Clinton, Biden, and Pelosi, and a couple of others were the anti-gun drive, and they did the same playbook for decades and decades and decades and decades. And it wasn't until Obama in 2012 that it really started to get different. And it hasn't been until 18 or something until it really got weird. And now you've got way more, whatever you want to call, like 3-letter organizations or the equivalent, the state level, the areas of interest, the regional, all the different ways that we have people on our side. And now what is a company supposed to do? It's not like back in the day that was like, oh, we need to defend ourselves, so let's go get a lawyer and let's grab the NRA. Maybe let's grab a lawyer and let's grab a scholar. But there was pretty much only one thing to do back in the day.
Yeah.
There were less fights. So now the fight is just way more whatever. So I'm not trying to offer excuses other than let's be realistic and have expectations that are legitimate and not childish or just coming up with dream scenarios. I wish we had everything perfectly. When has anything ever been perfect in the world? We struggle as a group of people to come up with a shared group of values that allows us to work together to have liberty, amongst a bunch of individual freedom. Like, we're always working towards that. It's never been perfection, and it got ruined by Pelosi or Feinstein. They were just not satisfied with our goals, and they have their own weird communist goals or whatever. So they have been pulling their way. But, as their side changes and as the playing field changes, like, we've got to expect to be able to be fluid with that, and again, have just, not expect more than is realistic.
No, I think that's that's fair.
But I'm not trying to say that there's nothing we can do. I'm still not satisfied. I think that the same way that things are changing, everybody's faster and able to adapt more. We don't have to wait around for 3-letter organizations. So I'm getting less and less satisfied with what they're able to do and what they accomplish. So I'm not trying to say, oh, we're doing as good as we can, because we're not. We definitely do more. But we're not Borg, and we're not communists, so we can only expect to do as much as we can when we're not all connected to our brains.
And so this is actually the comment I meant to click on for X-Adam 1, and I clicked on the wrong one and just kind of went with it. But he said, I think our responsibility is to be responsible gun owners, not to worry about laws. That is supposed to be the politician's job, to enforce laws and protect the rights. I absolutely agree with you 100%. That's the way it should be. Unfortunately, that's not the way it is. And that's the failings of men and women, to be politically correct, where they don't. So that's where, when I say that, we should be involved, that's why. You should just be able to enjoy your constitutional rights, never worry about them. Nobody ever hassles you about them. But unfortunately, that's not the way the world works. Whether it's somebody doesn't understand those rights or somebody doesn't care what those rights are. And by being involved, you can help ensure that everybody understands. And if they do not follow the Constitution, then they are punished. DJ, why don't you had a comment in the private chat there?
Cool if we could highlight them.
Yeah.
By the way, G and DJ, did you know that you can now comment on the YouTube side from StreamYard?
The other day. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Just learned that tonight. I was like, sweet.
I think we learned that in your chat.
Oh, cool.
DJ, why don't you go ahead and ask that question rather than me interpreting what you wrote?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot, man. I thought it might be useful if we define what we meant, or maybe what you mean, boss, by defending. Who's responsible for the defense of? So the action of defending. And then maybe the responsibilities, and what I had in the back chat was, 1, by government, 2 by their agents, that would be LEO, and 3 by the citizenry themselves. Because I think that one of the differences that we might get into in text and verbal discussion there is what our terms mean. So if we can come together on kind of the same rough page, and if you want to take the responsibility for that, I think that'd be great, because then you get to frame, Foss, the argument or the discussion that much more, and can control it a little bit better than my tangents might.
Sergeant Joe Smith and Gun Metal Guy USA are out there. Well, I was gonna touch on that too, on the defending part, where, like, when I first decided I wanted to be involved, but I didn't know how to be involved, so I started, back before I had YouTube or made videos or any of that, started out by supporting like the Second Amendment Foundation, financially supporting them however I could, because they were actively fighting 1639, which was kind of for me, really kicked everything off for me. Or even like YouTube. I like to support, I prefer supporting the smaller channels, but people who are out there, actively, whether it's like Coop will go through and stream hearings and stuff, sit down and watch and then talk about it, or somebody that, even if it's just gun content, where it's keeping that out in the consciousness, and they're putting out, adding to gun content, so it's growing the content that's out there and it's not disappearing, like the anti-gunners would like. So those, I feel those are ways that you can be defending. Well, it's not quite the word I want, but that's the only thing I can think of right now.
I think that it does participate. What you're doing there is by support. You're providing for the defense of something by the support of those who are of similar interest, be they the organizations, the channels, or the discussions that we have. Like right now, these things that we do and those that you name are actions in the support and defense of the laws. So I follow.
And and it doesn't all have to be financial. Like with the YouTube channels, letting other people know about the channels, or watching their content. The thumbs up and the sharing helps propagate the information that they're putting out, so it gets to other people. And G-Webs Barbecue, you guys can jump in at any time while I'm talking if you have any comment.
Stuff happens incrementally, or like accumulatively, if that's the right word, without people paying attention to it or understanding that it's happening necessarily, but you'll see it after the fact. I always like to use the idea of video cameras and stuff. Like going to SHOT Show every year, there was regular cameras at first with film, and then digital cameras, and that was a big deal. And then there was video cameras, and that was a big deal. And then there was digital video cameras, and that was a big deal. And then there was, because at first we would take video and put it on DVD and send that around to people back in the old days. And then we could put that on the internet, and that was a big deal. And then, you go through phones and streaming, and now there's people live at SHOT Show. So nobody sat down in 2006 and said, here's the steps we're going to take so that in 2013 or 23, there's going to be a section of each booth at SHOT Show for streaming. Like, no one sat down and determined that was the path, but that's what happened. So the same thing with Second Amendment. Everybody was content with the NRA. If you would have asked everybody 20 years ago, how good's the NRA? You would have said, oh, it's awesome. Or you would have said, like, oh, I didn't like my free knife I got, or I somebody else got a backpack and I only got a knife, like whatever. Like, oh, I love the meetings, or I think the ranges, I don't like the range safety officers. There's just normal complaints like that. And now there's these other organizations that have made a bunch of money, did a bunch of other kind of marketing, did marketing towards what people want, as opposed to just being the only game in town. And as soon as there's variety and whatever, then people can start to do the nuance. So I think that, it's not 100% the same as what I'm saying for SHOT Show and stuff, but like, as far as the 2A goes, like what we expect has changed. What the other side thinks they can provide has changed. What the antis are seeing us accomplish and do is scaring the shit out of them, and that's causing them to panic and do weird things. They're not capable and they're not really good at it. They use gun stuff as a diversion, I'm pretty sure. More than anything, they care less about it, by proof that they don't ever develop their, or evolve their positions. All they do is repeat, regurgitate their positions. So when they do that, in ways that's obvious that they're doing it reactively or just out of no other options, I think that's the evolution that we have to be aware of too. And we want to, when I'm talking about having realistic expectations, take into account that kind of stuff. Like, things are changing, and what we should expect in 5 years is a lot different than the change that we should expect 5 years from today is a lot different than the change we have experienced in the last 5 years. Is that the way to say it? Like, no matter what has happened and at what pace and at what velocity or whatever, like what trajectory, we know the next 5 years is going to be much different because we have the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, and we're about to see the the removal of so many state infringements that it's going to be a different world. And once we now live in a world with 27 states or whatever with constitutional carry or whatever it's at, it's really difficult for somebody to suggest blood in the streets. When, since 2010, there's been no blood in the streets. So we're living in a time when things are changing. So I don't get too frustrated. I don't think it's over. I don't think we got nothing to do, but we're super capable. We got lots of people on our side, and the people that are lazy and are going to get upset about the sky falling, they've always been like that. And they're probably going to stay that way, but they're just a small number of the people that are really out there.
So G-Webs, knowing or having an awareness, even tacit, of history, what these things mean to our culture, our society, that participation, be it being active or passive, do you think that part of the key to keeping things going for ourselves as individuals and for society as a whole is keeping abreast of those issues, what the current developments are, it's kind of staying active kind of thing? Is that an appropriate expectation of being an appropriate defender of rights?
Well, again, if you're talking like in general, sure. But
Sure.
specifically, no, everybody's got to do whatever they can do. So if you're dealing with cancer, go deal with cancer. If you've got dog's being a jerk, go potty train your dog or whatever. But, there's plenty of people, and we're not unaware of the strategies and the options on the table. And there's more and more coming to the mix. I think we have a potential if everybody decided to go deal with their personal lives at the same time, we'd be screwed. But I don't think we have that situation. I don't think that's something that we have to be concerned about, unless I'm being really missing something. There's just so many of us. I just don't think, we're all.
That's a good point.
At the same time.
That's a good point. I think there are going to be varying degrees, lots of degrees of engagement, interest, participation kind of thing. But yeah, thanks, man.
I mean, I'm not trying to say that don't be active, but yeah, we don't want people to burn themselves out. It's not like the last sprint and it's over. But
Gunpowder Beauties out there. Good evening. And Woods.
Girls allowed to be up this late?
Well, I'm guessing maybe one of the kids is keeping her up.
Pillow fight must be over.
That's okay then.
Yeah, and with the kind of speaking of being involved, I think also just as a gun owner, being willing to talk to, like your neighbor, in conversation, or just one other person, I think helps. It's it's not going to move the world, but it's going to remove a pebble, and each little pebble removed, clears the pathway, I guess, as a awkward analogy. And that, that's kind of for the every second matters. That's kind of how I've changed my focus when I have been doing the posts lately. Is one yeah, I'm going to end up off track, I know, but one is to try and get people's attention who might not normally be looking for this kind of content. That's why, I've have done my posts in the way that I have, because it's something that's a little bit different from what you normally see, and so it might catch somebody's eye. And then the second part for me is to help bolster other people, to give them encouragement, other gun owners encouragement to try and encourage their involvement. And I came into Every Second Matters later, where it had already been kind of kicked off and was going. And so I don't know if there was an original idea for it, or if it's just, we want to be involved, everybody take it in your direction.
Well, you don't know. You weren't around for or you haven't heard about the origins of it or whatever.
I've heard later, but I came in after it was already established.
I mean, chats were a little different back in 13 because they were only 3 years old, really. So, they're 13 years old now. So it's a lot different, right? So everybody was still new. So there was kind of like TV back in the day. There was the channels, and everybody thought oh, well, there's already somebody on, so I'm not going to go. That's where corking came from. So everybody had their own channels or their own shows or whatever. And it's just like now there's a lot of audience that would jump between the shows and stuff. So that's kind of how Every Second Matters happens. Everybody can visit each other's shows all the time. So this group of, I don't know, a couple of dozen people were always in chats together. And we just got sick of essentially we all saw that Obama had, boasted that he didn't need Congress. He was so right that he was going to just do executive actions, and everybody was scared shitless, like they'd never been scared shitless before. And nothing came of it because of basically everybody constantly resisting every single thing he did in every possible way. And there was no one that led that. It was just we say grassroots, but it's just a bunch of individuals standing in front of whatever abuses were trying to happen. For the most part, not every single one, but most of them didn't happen. So we were all kind of sitting around just like this, exactly like this, only with 12 or whatever people would max out in a YouTube chat. And it was 8 o'clock in the afternoon instead of the middle of the night. But we were essentially just having chats like this, what can be done? What can be done? And there was a bunch of people that were doing things like carrying open holsters. And there was people wearing gun shirts and people doing different things, not on the Second Rating, just doing it. Just a way to say the Second Amendment matters to them or whatever. And that's where I think it kind of started from, if I can remember anymore. I went back before and listened to that show before, but maybe only 3 times in however many years it's been. But it started out from something like that. We were just kind of having a discussion, and then it became, well, what if we did something on the regular? And what if we just kept very few parameters to that so that it couldn't go off course, because there's hardly anything to go off course. It's just do something on the second that has to do with the second. And then that was it. So no matter pretty much whatever anybody did, it was, the same direction. So anyway, that was the beginning of
it. Mike McLuhan's out there. Good evening. I will say that I do. I'll probably just do a post on Instagram in the morning. And it's just a picture because I had a project, what I was working on, I didn't get it finished. So it's kind of a time consuming one. So hopefully I'll get it done for next week. But let me go back. There's a couple comments I wanted to hit. Woods said, I talk to gun agnostics, agnostic folks often. That's the group I target. And Uncle Jim said, take the kids shooting in the woods and make it super fun for them. Nothing works better for the future. That's how I got hooked at 7. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And then, it can kind of work into, like with, I know you've kind of delved into this a little bit, like with the video games, kids that kind of get interested in the guns through video games. And then if you can take them out shooting, they get to shoot the actual guns. I think would be beneficial.
You could definitely make oblique references all day long to firearms to increase engagement. We're talking about part of the responsibility, I think, that we're talking about right now is engaging, regardless of how we go about doing it or to what degree we do it. From every second matters to my suggestion here. If you can promote the engagement, I think that's something that goes a long way in defending. One of the ways that we keep those things active in other people's minds are those kind of tacit discussions that do pop in once in a while. This is a more direct action, the overnight, the mouse party to a lesser degree, right? But overnights are kind of about those things often. And so if we can move things out, as I think all of us gathered here do, into like the greater society, we're taking these specific discussions where we're kind of going, more brass taxi and on stuff. That make an oblique reference to something. Aren't guns cool? Like Woods is almost always saying is a redirection, behavioral redirection. So guns are cool, just saying. And if we do just say things that are cool about guns once in a while, not be so afeared of drawing up the ire, or things can just end up being a discussion. They don't have to be an argument all the time. And go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's. You don't have to be out there proselytizing, with your shooter's Bible. It's just having a normal conversation with the people. If the opportunity comes up while you're talking, don't be afraid to talk. And if they don't want to talk, then you don't push it.
Often the anti's positions are set to be. What are those called when it's like the question is, when are you going to stop beating your wife? Where there's no right answer.
Yeah.
Where no correct answer. So, they set these things up like blah, 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 gun violence or whatever they're going to say, so that, or at least I believe it's engineered, so that their people on their side can just say whatever they're going to regurgitate, and then they can stand there with a dumb look on their face. Because most people who aren't comfortable with having a conversation, when they get caught with one of those, well, how come you're okay with the violence, or how come you're okay with whatever, with that assumption that we're all going to agree that the guns are the problem, and now you got to justify to me why guns aren't the problem. Where in reality, if once you're comfortable having conversations with people and you don't have, you don't share that position, then you're not coming at it with, hey, let's all come from this, same point of view. And that's the main thing, is being able to enunciate that, hey, we're coming at this from two different points of view. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm comfortable with the thing that you're scared of. And, you're going to have to accept that. And that's difficult sometimes to enunciate to somebody, because nobody wants to hear that they're uneducated about something that they're yelling at you about. And, that's, I think, one of the big issues, that one of the blocks in communication. One of my frustrations with the people on our side, we have just as many people that have gone to school for how brains work and how to do effective communication. And we've had all the time in the world to dissect all the arguments that are used against guns, gun ownership and gun owners. Why aren't we training each other how to end the debate? Why don't we talk about conversations that finish, instead of, oh, well, maybe we can just smile and act like, we're not the problem, essentially. Anyway, I don't know the answer, but I think that's one of the problems.
I think that, I agree. And I think that both sides engage in, I think the term you're looking for is logical fallacy. I think that a lot of times that the head butting happens because neither side really wants to be wrong. Why? Because neither side is convinced that they are. And I don't think, to touch back on one of the things that I was saying, that it's our responsibility to have that to prove that so. I think that that's where minds shut down is when there isn't any flexibility. Now, back to the point of logical fallacy that I think you were making that I want to expound on, and that is we can be coming to conclusions that aren't actually the appropriate or correct conclusions. We often will see that we are able to see the deficiencies in others' arguments while not recognizing the deficiencies in our own. Now, I have a tendency to think, but this might be a fallacy. I'm promoting a fallacy myself and suggesting that firearms folks know what the hell they're talking about. I think that there is a predisposition for us to have a higher degree of certitude because we need to be. I think that there's always going to be some jackanapes who's out there just like spouting bullshit, that they've heard or they're regurgitating sort of thing. But if you are responsible, if you are committed to the defense of self and others, then you are taking oftentimes, every day, you're taking on a mortal risk. Those who don't have that kind of skin in the game don't have to be right. Foss has often said that you can't debate emotion. And when we are as emotional sometimes as an oppositional side is, we get lost in that emotion one more time. We aren't able to bring it back to those brass Taxian kind of points. And I'm going to pass it back to you guys.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. And you cannot shout somebody into changing their opinion. For a lot of the reasons that, you brought up. And so it's when you're having a heated discussion, it is very easy to get upset. It's happened to everybody. It happens to me all the time. But if you're engaging in the conversation, you have to keep it from you can't stop them from shouting, but the conversation stops when the shouting starts. And then also there are people who they will have their talking point and they will refuse to hear anything else that you say. And I believe it's partly because they don't have, they are not able to defend their position and are afraid of that.
Right.
Foss, I also think it's a matter of them not having the appropriate context. If an opposition only has the context of those things that they don't have to protect and defend on a daily basis, then it's really easy for them to just be farting in the wind, shouting with their hand, raising their hand in the air and shouting that they're so correct without even understanding why it is that they may not be. And I think one of the things that's hard for people to surrender sometimes when it comes down to those, once we start to believe it to be a moral question, and there's a lot of that in firearms, but to opposition, their moral questions and imperatives are different than ours, than I think ours are collectively often. So if we don't have that context of theirs in mind, that they don't have us have ours in their aspect as well, then you're not going to meet in the middle. There is no meeting in the middle because there's a constant misunderstanding of each side and the premises of each and their tenets. Back to you guys.
And I put the hashtag freedom. That's the hashtag for the giveaway. So if you want to participate in the giveaway, put it out there in the text chat, put hashtag freedom. And I think we'll give away whoever wins, since it's the 4th. I'll give you all 3. The Count Chocula, Frankenberry, and Booberry stickers. Booberry glows in the dark. But you'll get the whole set, where normally you'll just get one of them. That way you have to collect them all. And I think I'll give away the Smith & Wesson HRT knife.
Oh,
we'll go ahead and give that away.
snap.
So hashtag freedom. Now that I broke the momentum.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Guns and Barbecue panel member who made me aware of the chat function from the StreamYard side. Oh my God, is that a savings?
It's
So many
nice.
times now. Yeah, I won't have to run two phones for a lot of things. That's awesome. Thanks, Barbecue.
It only took StreamYard, what, 2 years to, get that right?
The only
3
the
years?
only thing I don't like about it is you lose the autofill. So when you're typing somebody's name, especially somebody that has a long,
Yep.
yeah.
That's why I'm always like at the first part of your name that's easy to spell, and then it ends.
Yeah.
If I'm typing through here, I don't know how to spell it.
Should we talk about
Yep.
big organizations like FPC, GOA, NRA?
What about
Oh
it?
yeah, I definitely see them as being part of the defense. The active defense of firearms rights and other attendant rights. Absolutely. Whether or not we agree on each one and how they go about doing it. Well, there is more than one choice. Because if we have more than one choice, I don't think it's. I mean, I got to break with what I was saying right there and just point this out. Everybody beats the fuck out of the NRA. And I don't think it'd be that hard to see that the NRA does some good things. It's really easy to continue to point the stink finger at them, though. And I think it's also then conversely easy to say, oh, FPC, GOA, they're doing a great job. At least they aren't the NRA. Well, they're all three-letter organizations. They're all those who, at least on their surface, are out there to be around for firearms rights, and for us, ostensibly. So, yeah, and I got to leave it at that.
They are definitely important because they are a way to pool monies, because these fighting these laws in the court is very expensive. And so it would be very difficult for any individual to do. So it allows a lot of people to chip in a little bit. And then they have these organizations have the lawyers who are versed in constitutional law in the court proceedings, and would be very hard to do these things without the organizations.
Except we did Heller without the organizations. We did McDonald with like one of them.
Well, while that might be true, I think that Foss is making a good point there. And Foss, I'm not trying to put the words in your mouth, but by amplifying effort, we help to, and spreading the responsibility, those organizations become key for a lot of people who wish to participate in the process, don't find their commitment to be strong enough, their time allotment to be grand enough, or their voice to be loud enough. So I think by participating in those organizations, although others might argue that it's, well, you're shifting your responsibility, you could have done this on your own. I think that is what they are choosing to do on their own. So I'm going to honor that. And I didn't say, I wouldn't try to suggest that you weren't speaking in opposition to that, G. Foss.
Do you know, for Heller and McDonald, were they, was it crowdfunded? Or
no.
Were they able to individually pay for?
Heller was paid for by just rich people. None of the organizations had anything to do with that.
Yeah.
So let me ask this question. How many of the organizations have a lawsuit going right now in New Orleans? How many of the organizations have a lawsuit going right now in Minneapolis? How many of them have one in Seattle? Like, you might know about the Seattle one because that's what they're talking about. Yeah. And they'll say things like, we have 34 lawsuits or we have 15. So until I see some kind of organization where they go, oh, we're playing zones or we're playing best offense or whatever the sports terms are, where like, I want to know that the one in Colorado that takes $16 million a year isn't just putting down $35 lawsuits right after FPC and then claiming that they've got 64 lawsuits in the country. So there's specific instances here and there where one of them wins or one of them claims a victory, and everybody else leaves them alone or whatever. But we've already seen things this year in Nebraska and in other states in previous years. We've already seen where they get in each other's way, and then they create division. And oh well, I like this angle, and they can't handle that angle. We're allowed to not be in lockstep and not be the Borg, but at the same time, there's no way in 2023. Again, we have so many other things that we could be doing besides lawsuits. They are all one-trick pony lawsuits because since 1970s, that's all they've done is lawsuits. And now that the NRA, they can get on the whole, oh yeah, I hate the NRA, that's cool. Be like Bloomberg, hate the NRA. And now they can, just ride that train. Like, we don't want people that are just exist. We want people that are doing stuff, right? At least I would think we want people that are going to take advantage of the opportunities and do stuff when it's applicable and not just figure out ways to get by. And, well, again, if we're having conversations like this out of frustration as individuals, are we the only people in 2023 having this conversation? I fucking hope not. So if we're having this conversation, there's other groups, people like us, then these three little organizations are tone deaf. We're not taking advantage of everything on the table because there's a lot of people. We've had Every Second Matters since 2013. You have any idea how many people I've seen come through Every Second Matters? And that's just the people I've seen come through Every Second Matters who've been interested, active, like wondering, frustrated, whatever the word is, and then they leave because, you know what I mean? Like, why is this? Why are we having to do this? Why aren't national level organizations who have people who are sociologists and people who are psychiatrists and people who know how minds work and people who know how to get things done, people who know how to make $1 million yearly events happen? Anyway, I'm not satisfied with them. I'm never going to say anymore. Not in 2023. Just give them $30. No, they have a lot of $30. They got a whole shit ton of $30. They all did a bunch of stuff this last time around where they got everybody to join their organizations for $30. So anyway.
Yeah, I wish G-Webs, I do wish there was more like the way that they ran their tag teams on issues and locales would be a little bit stronger, but I get that they're not always going to want to do that or for it to be all that.
They don't want to do rallies. Yeah. None of them like rallies. They all hate rallies. They'll do a get together where they bring industry and you together to sell you stuff, but they won't do a rally. State level organizations might do rallies, but that has the difference of preference and points of view and who's the members of the organizations. But the national level ones, they'll tell you. They've been asked publicly and they'll tell you. They've actually made a point of it at GRPC to tell you how stupid rallies are and how they don't back them and blah, blah, blah. They were all at 2019 and acted like they were best friends with everybody there. But then as soon as, they never see another one, you never see them do rallies. So they don't care about getting people together. They don't see the need in educating activists. Why are we all stumbling around trying to figure out how to become activists? When they can teach us how to whatever, blah, 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 CCW. They can teach us whatever, blah, 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 red dot site. They can teach us whatever, blah, 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 trigger control, but they can't teach us altogether how to be activists, how to end things, how to work with the other side. Why are the ladies of the DC Project frustrated and having to do things when these organizations just all increase their memberships by how much? How many in the last week, how many things have you seen going around saying, oh, if you're dissatisfied with the NRA, join us? How come they didn't send out an email that said also the DC Project is worth your attention? Like, they don't care. So I'm sorry, I'm raging in the middle of the night, but
no,
great.
I can't. In 2023, they don't deserve $30. They deserve a note saying, when are you going to do more with the money that influx of money you just got? When are you going to show us how much better you are than the NRA? Because right now you're just being a wannabe NRA, all of them.
That touches on the second part of the argument, is like the pistol brace and the bump stock lawsuits, which are they are the wrong, in my opinion, they are the wrong focus. It's stopping one part of the problem and not going after what the problem is, which is the NFA. And
Right, with the bump stocks and with the pistol braces for sure, and what 3D printed guns in some sense all illustrate is that this is a bad law from 1934 that attempted to legislate morality through defining some property as a vice just because of fear or ignorance or manipulation, right? And it's just doubling down on that. I think I agree. I wouldn't say it the exact same way, but I agree. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't a time to worry about the specifics. This is a time to challenge their perception that, or their, what'd you call it, DJ? Like, their just assumption that we all agree that machine guns are bad, and we all need to, these are close to machine guns, so therefore they're bad. Nah, if these things exist and there's no problem, then therefore machine guns aren't bad. So therefore your old laws are bad. Let's get rid of that. Make them start justifying.
Yeah, I think there is way too much dissonance that's created by the separate, like the factional version. So you have this faction over here who wants it this certain way, this one over here. A quick side note to that, as long as people are participating in the process, I'm cool. I also, though, to go back to it, kind of have my preferences for things. The whole Me Too-ism that's been happening, and that a couple minutes ago when you were getting started, I was just like, oh yeah, that. Okay, so FPC has this case. Guess who just opened up another case in the same jurisdiction? GOA did. The whole why can't people work together? Why can't we all just get along thing? I think that's part of the creation of why there is that dissonance, is that nobody really wants to go for that lockstep. We would all like things to work together efficiently towards the common goal, but trying to determine what that common goal is, that's when you get the different flavors. And not having those different flavors would make everybody completely even more unsatisfied with the situation. If there was only the one note pony, if we only had NRA, if we only had FPC, then no one would be sad. Even fewer people would be satisfied. There'd be even greater dissension, among the ranks, and I don't think we make it that much more progress. So having that many more voices, that many more organizations to kind of fill the need here or there, even if they're doubling up on effort, I think it's on the outside, it's a good thing. By the time it gets down to the practice of these things, not always the most efficient way to go about it. And that creates that dissonance. Back to you guys.
Yeah, it's necessary. They're just not evolving fast enough for me.
Well, I think part of it, and that, this is another element in here, is it's the money. One of the biggest member drives for the GOA was the pistol braces, because they got the stay, and the stay was only good for their members. So it become a member so that you're covered by the stay. And that's,
yes, but it's been ever since the NRA wavered, dropped the Ackerman or whatever, and lost their media side, and everybody started to throw arrows, started to hang out with Bloomberg, do Bloomberg's job for free, and start hating on the NRA. That's when GOA started to lose my respect, because then they just stood up and were like, yeah, and essentially they've just been in it since then.
Well, and the point that Foss was,
what you're talking about is just another of the let's do what everybody wants, instead of what's strategically necessary or strategic or tactical.
Well, and I can remember attendant to Foss's point, when I first became aware of that, there were people active in the text discussion and on panels being just like, oh, well, I'm going to go grab that membership real fast. It was, there weren't the higher minded goals of making sure that, well, this needs to apply to everybody. Let's work within this system, or the system that is thrust upon us, so that we can make sure that it is for everyone. It was just like, oh shit, me now. I better get my ass covered for this. Kind of screw the guy next door. I mean, I'll tell him about it, but if he doesn't have the $30 to pony up, well, I guess I'm covered and they're not. Wow, that factionalism, the chasm gets spread out even wider with that kind of stuff. And no, I won't make that point. Go ahead.
I don't see all that.
No, I do. I did. And I also felt the sting of this. What about myself included? Those people who were as deserving of the same kind of defenses that were being provided by that sort of membership, were unable to afford it. That's a form of gatekeeping, unintentional though it may be. if you're an FPC member, you don't have the $30 to make sure you're covered by their jurisdictional challenge to the national degree. Well, then you're just kind of screwed, aren't you, buddy? Well, that ain't cool.
X Adam once said, I think we need to find the media's Achilles heel to really have a big impact on the 2A rhetoric. They deliberately spread lies, and too many people believe the local news.
I find the big one that I see untapped is why just guns? So when guns are gone, right, theoretically, what about removing guns made people less violent? What removed the mitigating circumstances to violence? What changed in communities? Just the lack of guns. Like, where do they see the evidence for that? So they want to get rid of guns, and they're used to getting debated on that. So ask them to play that out. So you get rid of guns, and then what? Is that then it's knives, and then it's ropes, and then it's poison, and then it's matches, and then it's gravity, and where does taking away the risky things accomplish what we want to do, which is remove the reasons people become violent? And they don't become violent because they got nothing else to do or it's cool. It's because they've got mitigating circumstances. Is that the right way to say it? So why don't we work together on that? So the Achilles heel is, so you guys just want to go after guns. Let's figure out how we get rid of suicides, and it's not guns. So let's get rid of suicides. And once we get rid of suicides, we've saved a lot of lives. And now we've done that together. How come you won't work with us on that? Like that's two ways to.
And while I see the good points of what you're making there, I think that just ends up being a huge morass. I mean, because you end up thinking, what about these things? Well, what did this do to solve that? Well, pretty soon, I think that the average person, the sheeple that folks are referring to, and perhaps those are being manipulated by what X Adam 1 is saying, are that they're just going to want to add everything to the list. And pretty soon, think about all the child safety standards that we talk about now, or safety standards in general that we talk about now. It used to be that things underneath the sink, you just knew not to drink those, right? Well, now because of all the litigiousness of our society and its increasing impact on law.
The idea isn't to have like a long discussion on how many things they want to make illegal potentially. It's to wake them up to the fact that, hey, we are only focusing on the implement and we're not efforting at all on the causality. So if we can start to address, let's work together on the causalities and not I forget what the word is for the implements, but let's wake them up to that, not to necessarily go, hey, let's challenge you to have some kind of a match game of, pick the next violent thing in order and we'll, debate. And no, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying to wake them up from the fact that, hey, you're focused on one thing. You've never questioned it. You've only been attacked. You've said remove guns and the person said no. So that's where you got into an argument instead of a conversation. Let's have a conversation. You say remove guns. I say let's end suicide. And guns aren't going to do that. So how do we end suicide? Now we're having a different conversation. So I guess I wasn't clear on that. I wasn't trying to start it.
I mean, not bad, and neither was I. But the idea that we could just end up with something that will be absolutely stupefying to someone else, I don't think that's going to be effective. I've not seen that kind of thing play out all that much, and that's where the emotion tends to get kicked in even more. And when you're talking about those causal relationships, that's exactly the kind of thing the kind of point that I was making. You'll have this, this recidivistic thing ends up happening when people try to find ways to support what it is that they want, but can no longer protect or defend. Oh, well, what about this? Now, it might be that the task is to sit down and eliminate every last damn one of those things. But when you're talking about the exercise of liberty and all the interpretations of that underneath the law, wow, are even you and I going to be able to come to those kind of distinct and lasting decisions and agreements? It's rough. I mean, I wish that it were, but would that it were so, but I don't believe it to be true.
One thing also to remember, when X Adam was talking about the media and the news is a commodity that is sold to people. You'll hear people say, Well, when this newscast, Edward R. Murrow or whoever, back then the news was whatever. It has always been the same. It is still the same as it has always been. It's used to push narratives. It's used by the government, used by personal interests. Pretty much every war, the news was used to push stories to get us involved in the wars. And that's fact, historical fact. So, and they can craft the news based on what they cover, how they cover it, or what they don't cover. I did not understand that for a long time because I used to think, well, it's the news. How can the news be political? They're just saying what happened. Well, are they saying what happened? How are they saying it happened? How are they crafting the narrative around how it happened? Or what are they not saying? Not talking about which actually happened. So you have to keep that in mind. And then also, like with radio and TV, there's like four corporations that own all the news. And if you look on YouTube, you can find the supercuts where they splice in all the different channels from around the country, saying the exact same word for word, the exact same things on different stories. I've seen it for like a story on Easter. So like an Easter egg hunt or something. And, it's like a dozen different channels from across the country, and they all are telling the exact same story word for word.
Well, and
Now, when that once came from something like the AP or the UPI Wire, and you had editorial license and control for independent stations or network participants, now that was something. I think that's what you're echoing from the damn near, it's like it seems like 100 years ago, and it's not far from when it comes to national news coverage with those sort of things. So now that there's even less and less editorial control, you're back to the dollars point, which is who is it that sits atop all of those things? Now, when you remove editorial license from those things, you're only going to get the regurgitation of what becomes the company line. What is the company line going to be? That which will almost always be in support of shareholders. It's not going to be for truth. It's going to be for profitability. And so maybe that's rolling back to what you were saying there, Foss. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I didn't want to get too far into that because that's taking us all way off track.
Well, there's something else that's consistent and completely identical across all platforms and across all networks, and that was the commercials.
Yeah.
I mean, every once in a while there'd be a different commercial, but for the most part, the same commercial for toast was the same commercial for toast.
And I think that's an excellent point that also kind of dovetails right into when you have advertisers that strong and you're moving out of the local, because I've worked in broadcasting before, when you move past the influence of your local advertisers, then you are at the whim of the national and international junket companies. You are now doing what Pepsi wants you to do because they're paying your bills, which means your salaries, which means your listeners have something to even engage with. So, wow. Didn't want to go that far either, Foss, but thanks.
But that was a bigger deal when there was there was a number of channels, and there was a time when there was a whole bunch of independent channels, and then they all got bought up by syndication, and then syndications have giant advertisers or regional advertisers, and how much they allocate blocks. So that stuff changes constantly, and then there's satellite radio, and then it's moved on to streaming and podcasting. And why would we think it's done at podcasting? So what we're seeing is people who, our parents grew up with freaking phones stuck to the walls. We understand everything from phones stuck to the wall to whatever's today and whatever's next, and we're going to be able to handle that. The kids today, I mention this all the time, like they've never not known a smartphone. So they just live in a different world than us, and they're not bound to what commercials used to be like. They don't care about networks at all. They got no respect for almost anything. So they're not going to respect the evil crap that we've dealt with because it's leached from newspapers to cable television to the internet. and part of it was because they owned, what's the word, transmission, or they owned the system of distribution, I guess. And once you got the internet and the distribution is, us, again, there's people that have never watched TV news at 6 p.m. I can't remember the last. I know that there might still be news at like whatever it is, 6 p.m. and 10, and probably in the morning. But I can't remember the last time I sat down to watch. I mean, I probably literally back in the old days of television is the last time I sat down to watch the news. But even just casually see the news playing on somebody else's thing, like nobody watches the news anymore. So I hear what you're saying, but I just don't think we're doomed that this is the end and this is the termination and the corporations are out to get us. Corporations may be more of an influence in other countries that haven't caught up, but I think that everybody's going to catch up really quick. Nobody's sitting around in the dark ages anymore. The internet's cleared that, leveled that platform. But I don't think it's doom and gloom, I guess.
Yeah. So to kind of push us back on topic a little bit, Baron,
The freedom topic.
talking about the GOA, Baron said if they should have given out free memberships if they actually gave a shit.
Ouch. $1 memberships.
Yeah. Removing that. Yeah. I dig that.
Interesting. I never heard anybody with that one. I'm gonna start saying that too. I'm gonna say $1 memberships because I can understand like if it's free, it's not a membership maybe. But yeah, for a year or something.
Yeah, kind of like a retainer.
But check out. I mean,
here's the $1 option where all you're going to get is an email. You're not going to get all the crap, right? Because it's going to cost us money. So yeah, there you go.
well, and look at the direct line that's possible. I mean, that's Barron's comment. I've seen him offer channel memberships before. So what ends up happening within the community, we're able to support each other. I was talking about the barriers to entry being
Barron
dollars.
should have bought everybody GOA.
But through that kind of thing, which can be very simply 99 cents plus a penny worth of largesse. For some of us, that's not a big deal kind of thing. But the networking that could become possible because of that, and somebody choosing not to give membership to something else, but instead, here you go, here are 29 $1 memberships. I've got mine. There's my $30, guys. Like that would be huge.
And again, if you want to, the giveaway hashtag is #freedom. So if you want opportunity to win some stickers and patches and Smith & Wesson knife, put #freedom out there. Sorry, go ahead.
If I could have that $1 membership, that only had the email alert or screw that, a text alert, even less. I mean, there's so little that's that'd be required for
text costs big money actually. To get text sent costs money. Emails doesn't really. Well, emails can cost you $30 for. It cost me like $13 for 500, $30 for 1,000. There might be cheaper ways, but emails do cost money. But texting certainly costs money. It's one of the more expensive things to offer as a feature. I know some people that have done it and they went broke doing it.
Okay, well, forgive my lack of awareness. More to
just
the point,
throwing that
I
out
guess.
than FYI.
Yeah. More, I guess, than that there is a lower barrier to entry for so many more folk for that sort of thing. So thanks, Baron, for the revolution. Love it.
Probably turns into like an actual fee to send out phone calls where text, doesn't cost shit. Or not text, but text probably costs phone calls where email just is internet.
Oh, I don't know. Was there anything else?
Oh, the
on this
bracket.
topic? Well, like I said,
It's got to be dry by now.
No, it's I had to send it out. So you have to go to a specialist to get these brackets done.
All this hot air thrown around.
The powder coating isn't finished yet. There.
Well, it was sandblasted, then painted, then sandblasted again, then powder coated. Then after the powder coating, it was hydro dipped. Then after the hydro dipping, they went and had it Cerakoted, and after the Cerakoting, it was Duracoated. It's quite a process.
That's a lot of applications.
Whole thing with the chicken sacrifices and to bless the bracket, so it takes a while.
Mm-hmm. You got to throw it into
Buying
a volcano.
indulgences. Indulgences from the Catholic Church. Oh my god.
Eat the chicken heart raw. It's real sick stuff.
So there's 8 entries, so you've got just a minute here if you want to enter the giveaway. Let me share.
Anybody know what kind of percentage of a chance you have to win then?
1
Oh,
in 8.
Mr. Math. Yeah.
12.5%.
How many decimal points you got on that barbecue?
Just one. If you have more than one decimal point, you did something seriously wrong with your math. Doesn't matter how many decimal places there are. There should only ever be one decimal point.
All right. Let's draw and see who. Oop. Coop got in just at the last minute. I almost hit the button.
He screwed it up. It's no longer 12.5%.
Well, here we go.
I see some familiar names on that ticker.
Sergeant Joe Smith. Congratulations.
You know what I noticed? I entered through the StreamYard side. My thing didn't come up.
I did the same and mine did. Maybe you blinked.
I probably made a typing error or something.
Oh,
Slow it down on the replay.
So Sergeant Joe Smith, I don't know if I've ever sent you anything. I don't remember. So send me your address. Make sure I have it. And I'll get these mailed out to you this coming up week. Excuse me.
Congrats.
And XAdam1 sent in a video. So let's see if I can pull. Oops. It auto started. Let me present that. Have a good night, Woods.
See you, Woods.
He's rage quitting because he lost.
I don't blame him.
And let me take a quick look at. So this is his completed VP9.
Mm-hmm.
Whose?
XAdam1.
Isn't one?
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, she's pretty.
Can 9mm even make it out of all that extra barrel?
It's a long way to travel.
It's a lot of friction.
It's a long way to the top if you are 9mm.
It's a long way to Tipperary. Ew. Funky.
Nope, no spelling error on my end.
You're being suppressed. The man is
I
keeping
am.
you down. Although I guess I would be
Probably
the man.
because I didn't buy anybody a GOA membership.
We were talking shit about StreamYard earlier, so they stuck with
They hurt you.
You're like, how do you like this?
Wesley Foster's out there. I had that happen with AT&T. I had AT&T for my cell phone service. This was back in would have been right 2001, right after 9/11, because I was living in Federal Way, and I was talking to a friend about how much I hated AT&T, and it dropped my call. And every time I would complain about AT&T, my calls would drop. Oh, they're listening.
So if I praise StreamYard by saying it's the most incredible thing ever, my rate of victory would increase. God, I'm having a hard time talking. You think I'd win more?
You already win about 60% of the time, so.
Well, the big thing is just participating increases your odds of winning. A lot of people just don't participate.
Facts.
Wow, that kind of goes back to the topic for tonight. If you don't participate, right on.
I thought that by being a member of GOA, I was already in the running.
Oh, are your dues up to date?
Mm-hmm.
Mine are not. I need to renew.
If you just become a life member sometime in the past, you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, the problem is GOA does not have like a monthly payment plan for their life membership. It's either you give us $1,000 right now, or you just do the yearly thing.
$1,000.
Yep.
Holy crap!
You wanna-
Is that much now?
You want to
Not
pay
that
for
much.
life?
It was
Want to pay for
300
life
back-
one payment at a time for your membership barbecue?
It was
Yeah.
like 300 back in
All
the
right.
day, and that was easier to do at one time. It was like
And say when it's
essentially half the
$1,000,
gun
yeah.
or something. Wow.
I hear you, man.
NRA was only 500 back then.
I think NRA is like 1,500 now,
1,200
but
now.
normally they'll send you a thing where it's like, for $750 you can get it half price. But if you want it for the $750, you gotta like pony up all the money right then. Otherwise, you can get it for like the $1,500 or whatever it is for like $25 a month.
Oh, I don't know. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about tonight?
The ineptness of 9mm.
The incredible lightness of being.
Well, it has its place. It's probably the best caliber to give to the child soldiers. Something they can handle.
I reckon.
I did carry 9mm today when I went out.
I like how you said that loud and said it proud.
I had my CZ compact.
I went out of character today and carried 38. And I'm usually the 9.
But I took my 9mm to the range so I could shoot 45. So
Nice.
I had to rent a 45 so I could shoot a 45. But
Ooh, does this mean that you rented a 1911?
yep.
Yes.
You hadn't shot a 1911 before?
I have shot 2 other ones. I rented at the range. A SIG and what was the other one? I'm thinking the other one was a Springfield. I really like the SIG.
Very nice.
But I needed a 45 for the video I did, so I went down and rented one. And it was a Kimber, a commander size Kimber.
Ooh.
It ran, for those who hate Kimber, it ran flawlessly through all 14 rounds I put through it.
Do they give you Kimber mags with it, though? That's the real question. That's where the problems arise.
Ozzy Osbourne's out there. He said, I've been looking at 44 Magnum revolvers lately.
Oh,
gotta do
Ozzy.
this. Do it.
Yes.
Do it.
Do it twice. And after you do it twice more.
That's an 88.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do it more than 4 times.
I get tired. And Iron Road said he shot his 686 plus M69 and his 1022 today.
Nice.
Yeah,
I want to get a
triple shot.
69. I just never quite get around to it. Part of me is like, why would I get a 69 when I've got the 329 PD? Other than the fact that I'm just like, it's a 44 Magnum that I don't have in that particular model or anything.
I still want the 500.
Yeah, me too.
Or, there's lots I want, but it'll be, I can get one or the other. 500 or a 454 Casull. single action.
If it's one or the other, if it were me, I go with the 500.
I'm starting to see them. Starting to see them out in the wild. Well, not in person, but online, because they all disappeared for a long time, and now starting to see them. But I want the 4-inch.
My buddy just got one of those not too long ago. I think 2 months ago he just got a 500 in the 4-inch.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford it. Excuse me.
So why don't they reload, especially 44 Magnum and larger, in a helium environment so that the cartridges are full of helium and make the gun lighter when it's fully loaded?
There's probably going to be a problem with when you shoot it, you're going to be tearing those seals because of the recoil. So it lets all the gas out. G23 said, so you shot 2 mags? Yes, I shot 2 mags. I just needed it for the video, so I went down and shot 2 mags and came home.
So on the gun rentals that the range that you went to, does the rental of their firearm require the purchase of their ammunition, or were you able to walk in your own?
I did buy a box from them because I don't have 45. And I don't know if they do or not. I've rented and then used my ammunition before, and then but I've also bought theirs. So I don't know if they actually have a rule. It's a private club, so their customer service is a little better, and they don't hassle you about stuff normally. So I don't know for sure.
The way it should be.
And G23 was asking, why not the 460? Because I want a 500 or a 454. That's why.
I was just going to say, I would go with a 500. If I could not have both, it had to be one or the other. I don't have a practical purpose for either one of them, at least time being. So that's why I go with the 500, because why not?
What I really want is the survival kit with the 500, but that I cannot afford whatsoever. If you can find them, they're, God, I think
the orange handle.
Yeah, I think the last one I found was like $4,000.
Ooh.
So what all is in a survival kit beyond the firearm itself?
I don't know what all is in the 500 one. Yeah, I can't remember it's a survival or the bear defense, but I have the M360 survival kit. And that one came with a whole bunch of stuff that you would die in the woods, but like a compass, a whistle,
in case you get raped by a bear.
I think a notepad. It might have been like one of the Right in the Rain notepads. One of the harikuri knives. So it's like a trowel knife combo thing. Or no, I think I just said suicide knife. I'm blanking on it. I have one that I use when I'm putting out mole traps, but Band-Aids, a reflector, a couple little flip books with tips on how not to die.
That is great to look at when you're dying.
Yeah. I mean, it's and it comes in a waterproof case. I think it's waterproof. Can't remember if there's a seal on it, but it's cool. Actually, I just wanted the revolver. This was back during the cough when you couldn't find revolvers. So I bought the whole kit because I wanted that revolver.
Because it's stainless and has orange grips.
Yeah, it's not stainless. The cylinder is aluminum or titanium, and it's a scandium frame. So it is a bitch to shoot.
Oh, so it's a PD series?
It's close. It hurts a lot. I can't remember what the difference between the PD and the 360 is. I do carry it from time to time. It carries very nicely because it is so light. It is under a pound. It is incredibly light, but it is brutal to shoot. I don't shoot more than, I mean, at most, 20 rounds. And that's if I'm pushing it.
I always forget what the J frame 357 is in the PD series, but I'd like to get that just because I hear it is just an absolute nightmare to shoot. I can never remember what it is. I always want to say a 327, but I don't think that's correct.
Well, let's see what the Google box says.
That'd actually probably be a good idea. And I just, don't ever think about doing that.
Oh. 327 PD is a 357 mag. N frame. It's an N frame.
Oh, no. See, then it's not it. So this would be a J frame.
The 360 is a J frame.
Oh, is it a 360? Okay.
What's all these engine sizes, like 327, 360, 460? Like, I wonder if there's a parallel there somewhere.
Well, it is. It's
just
based on the diameter of the bullet.
Multiples of 12.
Say, the 360 PD, I think I read is something like 11 ounces. I cannot imagine putting full power 357 Magnums through that.
It's rough.
But then again, I mean, the 329 PD is a bit rough as well, but the J frame just, man, that sounds wicked.
Yeah, I figure, adrenaline is a hell of a painkiller, and if I ever have to use it and the adrenaline's going, you're not going to feel it until afterwards.
Yep.
No doubt, and having too much is better than having not enough.
Hori knife, that's what it is. That's what the kind of trowel knife thing is. It's a hori knife.
That knife loved you a long time.
Yeah, the mole traps that I use go down in the tunnels, so I use it to dig down in there, find the tunnels, and then put the traps in there. So, barbecue. You have anything coming up or anything you would like to talk about?
We got the Tuesday show happening each week right now. As far as, barring any life happenings that are out of my control at this point, I would like to be making content right now, but just with everything that's going on still, I am refraining from that other than doing the weekly show. Also, do you have any plans for Every Second Matters, boss? Any videos coming out that we might be able to look forward to?
For Every Second Matters, just the Instagram posts.
All right. And thank you very much for throwing the link out in your, I almost said Discord, and I was like, oh, that's not what it is, in your, whatever the frick
Gilded.
that thing is. Yeah, Gilded.
Gilded.
Thank you. Yeah, that thing. Much appreciated.
Well, I appreciate you jumping in. DJ, Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, almost every Saturday, but this week it needs to be a Sunday, which is later on today, I think, for every time zone now. On the A Great Start Shooting School channel, there's a discussion about mental health awareness and suicide prevention. Swing by and check that out. Armed Atlas, that's one channel. Costly Conversations podcast channel, that's the other. Same guy, same good conversations, even more diverse content popping out. Go ahead and give that person a subscribe. Check out the content. Everybody be safe, have fun, carry your guns, and rock.
G23 wants to know, barbecue, are you going to have chat on the 4th? That's a Tuesday.
Oh, of course. I'm gonna say it's not like I'm gonna be doing anything that night. So yeah, I'll still have a chat.
And G-Webs, anything you'd like to plug? Anything you got coming up?
I'm only going to be doing Lego Marvel superheroes from now on. So this is the new direction the channel's going. Lego versions of Marvel superheroes. How much do you think this Lego toy right here costs?
$12.99
$16.99.
brand new.
Wait, how much?
I said 16. Barbecue's at 12.
I'll go 25.
I'm not even kidding you. This thing costs $67.
Holy!
Fuck that.
This is 101 Lego blocks. It costs $67. That's the kind of thing people are spending money on out there.
Wow.
I found it in this pile of Legos right here.
Do they still make it, or is that
Yeah, you can go buy it at Amazon right now for $67.
Make a video?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I just made a video of it. Here's the instructions. I made it by putting together the instructions out of that. I was like, I had these instructions and I seen most of the parts, so I was sorting them and I made a $67 Lego set out of that.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah.
Do you have any chats coming up?
I was gonna do my weekly wrap up today, but then I started making this Lego dude that cost $67, so I could make a video of them and then put them on eBay. So if anybody wants a little Lego dude, I'm gonna sell them on eBay. But I might do that tomorrow, so I'll probably do the weekly wrap up tomorrow sometime.
Oh, okay. And Baron, thank you for putting links out there for me.
Baron's amazing.
I've got a video for the 4th coming out. The hashtag thing with a
Hashtag freedom.
Let freedom ring.
let freedom
Let
ring.
freedom
Thank
ring.
you. Hashtag
Sure.
let freedom ring. So there are. It's a campaign to get people to put out content on the 4th at 5 p.m. Eastern, and to flood YouTube with gun content with the hashtag Let Freedom Ring. Whether you're shooting at the range or if you can't make it at the range, make a video of something else and put her up there with hashtag Let Freedom Ring.
That's Hillbilly doing that.
I'm not sure who started it, but I think Hillbilly will probably do one. I did one. Anybody that wants to participate can do one.
That's a regular size Lego. You ever seen these mini Legos before?
Nope.
And Let Freedom Ring was around at least 2 seasons ago for this. These.
Oh, really? Oh, I never heard of that.
Yeah, never heard of it either.
Really? Yeah, I can't remember if I did one.
You guys
last
probably
year.
never heard of Ammo Day though, either, right?
No.
See, things come and go.
Every day is ammo day.
No, there's like 2 different separate ammo days where we're supposed to buy ammo from past years of this kind of thing. But that's cool. I didn't know about it.
Yeah,
But it's
the
essentially just doing something on what'd you say, 4 o'clock on the 4th?
5 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, that's a weird time. Why not 4?
That's just what they put. G23 saying the Crazy Scotsman started it. So no chat on Wednesday. We'll do it next Saturday provided I don't end up having to work, which I shouldn't. And probably all the chats will be on Saturday for a little while, but I don't know for sure. I have to just wait and see what happens. X Adams asking what round should be shot on 4th of July. He's thinking 5.56. 5.56 would be more than acceptable.
I think shotguns. That's the only time a shotgun's.
36.
The only time a shotgun's good is shooting up in the air on the 4th of July.
I feel like a 36 would be good.
So shoot him if you got him. Ozzy saying 45. Ken saying 45. Baron saying black powder.
See, that's where I was going.
Oh, black powder, yeah. Don't put nothing in there and just shoot off cannons, yeah.
Ooh, wow.
I thought we weren't allowed to have
said
cannons.
45.
Don't tell Biden. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Oh. So there it is.
Really need to get me a
Wait.
flintlock.
So yeah, I hope everybody has a good 4th of July, good Independence Day, and I'll be working, so I'll be making money promoting capitalism, America.
When I used to have to work on the 4th, I would just shut the place down and let everybody go up on the roof and watch fireworks because nobody was ever coming into work anyway. You know, during the fireworks and stuff.
Yeah. So, other than that, I hope everybody has a good rest of the night and a good tomorrow.
You still here? It's over. Go home.